So today we're going to continue our lesson looking at appropriation of images and icons by different artists. There are two terms that I want to go over. The first one is political. So with that, it means of or relating to government, a government, or the conduct of government. Party politics, or basically things happening against a government or a political system. So political causes aren't the only causes addressed in these works, but there are a lot of them. Obviously, there are other social issues that have to do not with government, but with how individual and groups of people treat other groups of people. So from the exhibit, there are two notable examples that I'd like to point out of appropriation. The first one is the appropriation of the pointing man by Mario Torero and by Yolanda Lopez. So the work by Yolanda Lopez is from 1981, and it says, "Who is the illegal alien pilgrim?" This says immigration plans. So this is directed to the same people that Uncle Sam is directing this to, right? Largely like the Anglos that have colonized the United States. And then this one, "You Are Not a Minority," is using the image of Che Guevara to point out that there are other ways to think about individual identity. And they are, of course, reusing this idea that is, I want you for the U.S. Army. So the other term that I want to go over today is juxtapose. So juxtapose means to place different things side by side, to compare or contrast them, or to create an interesting effect. For example, juxtapose unexpected combinations of color, shapes, and ideas. So we can talk about the juxtaposition of the visual language of comics and the serious statements here. Both Sweet Dreams Baby, this kind of violent Liechtenstein piece that really kind of talks about, I don't know, like abuse or fighting. So it comes off as kind of funny, but it's actually really violent. And then the other one is the Códices Chicanos, Historias Simplificadas. So it's the simplified histories about the invasion of Mexico by the United States. And of course, they are using Uncle Sam as a metaphor and juxtaposing this sort of funny character with some really serious things and violent things that were happening in the country. For example, Uncle Sam right here just snapping a piece of the border off, presumably to move it. So the juxtaposition of the way something looks versus the content of it is a really common one in a lot of these strategies that I'm going to go over today. Here's the first one I want to show you. This is Pandemic Barbie. While everyone else in quarantine are homeschooling their kids, learning to bake, and making TikTok videos, I'm over here making this, introducing Pandemic Barbie. Inspired by, but not affiliated with, the Mattel brand. So she worked with friends to brainstorm her ideas, and a friend of hers helped her 3D print some of the accessories, like that little miniature laptop. And this is, of course, putting something really serious, which is the pandemic, with something that is kind of fun, which is like Barbie dolls. And once again, it's that stay home Barbie is not something you would expect to see Barbie doing, right? You'll see her as a veterinarian, or you'll see her as an astronaut, or you'll see her as a fashion model, but you're not usually going to see her as a person staying at home. So that's how this woman, Julie Jorgensen, is really utilizing juxtaposition. This is a graphic design by Anthony Abisad, and This one's pretty simple. He took the visual language of the Coca-Cola logo and replaced it with the words plastic pollution. Coca-Cola is the #1 polluter of plastics in the world. The next one I want to show you is by Rising Hearts, and it's a few slides. And what this is it's called a culture jam, and it's basically taking something and remixing it in an interesting way. So a group of indigenous people from the United States were really pushing for the absencing of mascots after people. So this was done in 2017, and basically they wanted to show how easy it would be to change the branding of the Washington football team to the Red Hawks. So you can see they've got a spoof website here. This is Make Believe. They've got a new logo. They've got some news here. They've got some related content, videos, articles. You've got like the injury report. So all these different features. You can see they had an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter. Here's their Facebook page. You can see they kept the original colors of the football team, and they definitely kept to the form of a football, of the football website. And this was combined with an in-person action in the same time period. So this was December 2017. We now, of course, know that they are no longer known as the Washington Redskins. They're called the Washington Football Team, but this has been many years in the making. This artwork by Nina Kachadorian is called The Monument to the Unelected, and she adds a new sign every 4 years, and she's taking the political signs of people in various presidential elections who applied or who ran for election and who didn't get it. You can see a lot of very common things. You can also see that she reconfigured ones. This one says Adams Bush 28, but we know that these kinds of signs weren't around. So she's adding new signs as it goes. And you can see that like the style of them is very much something that we're used to seeing along the roadside. Of course, people don't just use it to make political statements, as in a monument to the elected. They also use it for humor. So Wu-Tang Clan is a rap group from when I was a kid, and they're very, very well known. And instead of people putting political signs on their lawns, some people manufactured and placed this sign which says, "Presidents are temporary, Wu-Tang is forever." But once again, we're using that white, red, and blue. We're using the lawn sign, and so it doesn't say what we're expecting it to. It's the juxtaposition of the kind of humorous content with the form, which is the political sign, that makes it kind of funny. Several of you talked about the symbol of the American flag, so I'm going to show you a couple of those. This one is by Brian Kenny, and this is the deconstructed American flag. And we know that those 50 stars and 13 stripes stand for things, but we can see that this flag is literally falling apart. And the artist has left all these threads down at the bottom, and we could say that this is probably speaking a little bit about how that person is feeling about the United States. Barbara Kruger is a really important artist in modern times, and she's known for using text in her artwork. So in this reconfiguration of the American flag, it says, "Look for the moment when pride becomes contempt. Who is free to choose? Who is beyond the law? Who is healed? Who is housed? Who speaks? Who is silenced? Who salutes longest? Who prays loudest? Who dies first? Who laughs last?" Really talking about some of the less awesome traits of American culture. And with that, I would like to invite you to reappropriate someone else's something and to remix it for your own purposes. Here's your challenge. Building on the work that you've seen here, brainstorm at least 3 different ideas of ways you can appropriate an existing iconic form to create a political statement. Of your ideas, sketch out what one could look like and please share it on Flipgrid. Here's one finished version of mine. This is a magazine cover style form, and I've appropriated the magazine form to talk about more serious things. So, for example, no, you still aren't doing enough is what's down here. Post-quarantine American tired teacher. Retirement. The top 10 cities you might be able to survive on your modest pension. Why living in a van down by the river makes a whole lot of sense. Calculate your retirement date. Coffee. Hidden dangers of this legal addictive substance. That's meant to be more humorous. Shoes and pants, tips and tricks for your post-COVID closet. And lastly, also inside, mass shooting scenario of the month, budgets, how to do more with less, 21 reasons why the janitor and secretary may be annoyed by you. So those are all, there's a combination of humorous things and more serious things that all make up what being a teacher can be like, or what it might be like come this fall. So this is an example of my appropriation of the form of a magazine.